Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Diplomatic Enclave. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But as you know, Pakistan is a country that is a majority of youth right now, and there are many other countries around the world that have youth as a majority as well. Those countries are working their level best for the youth to be the champions of the future generations. Now many companies, many countries from around the world are campaigning along with Pakistan, are trying to cooperate with Pakistan in building the youth of Pakistan. We have the privilege of having the chairman of one such company with us. What is very strange about his company is that after having launched it for the youth of the world, he began with Pakistan. Why did he do that? I'll ask him that and more. My guest today is Neville Gaunt. He is the chairman of a program of an organization that is called Your Passport to Grow. Neville, thank you very much to have joined us.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me.
Wa alaikum assalam, Neville. Neville, what brings you to Pakistan? First of all, I'm very intrigued by the fact that your company began its work by cooperating with Pakistan. Why Pakistan? Why begin with Pakistan?
Well, there's a little bit of history about this. In the 1990s, I was back and forth when I worked in the oil industry and really enjoyed working with the people here, loved the country. It was difficult times then, a little bit more troubled times, but Pakistan has always had a soft spot in my world, and I would regularly bring finance professionals out of Pakistan into other parts of the company, which could have been in Venezuela, in Libya, and even back to the UK. So, yeah, why Pakistan? Probably history, but equally, I happened to be doing some keynote speeches in Pakistan a few years ago, and I met my current country head, a guy called Mr. Ali Jafri, and he had an IT platform which just gelled perfectly with what we were looking to do.
All right. Before beginning this company that is called Your Passport to Grow, you were associated with another company that's called MindFit. Tell us a little bit about that and how that went on to kind of get associated with this current company.
Well, I'm still with MindFit. I'm the chief executive of MindFit. We're a small SME in the UK, and MindFit comes out of professional business coaching. It was born in the early 2000s. And created with a co-business partner of mine, a guy called Graham Williams, who worked in the business sector with a group of professional coaches. And MindFit, in essence, today helps organisations be the best they can be by changing attitudes. You might call it culture change. Some people call it change management. But fundamentally, it's taking the leadership on a journey that may be uncomfortable, but they actually collaborate and they really move their company forward.
When you talk of leadership being very different and very challenging, you've done the same thing. You've changed your paths. You were very comfortable in a sector, that is the oil sector, then the banking sector. You were earning more than enough, and then you changed tracks. Why did that happen?
Well, there's a point in your life where you say, I need to do something else. And my point came about that time. There were other things happening in my life as well, and I just had an opportunity to say, that's it, I need to move away and do something different. Little did I know at the time that I would be involved in people development, which is what MindFit is and what Your Passport to Grow is.
All right, now speaking of working for the benefit of the people and making them realize their potential, how do you do that? How does one do that? Because there are many youth across the world, including in Pakistan, people who do not understand their true worth, their true value, or what they are really capable, the sector that they're really capable of excelling in. How do you make them realize that?
Well, it's a problem the world's got, so it's not limited to Pakistan. Pakistan doesn't have the monopoly on it. And as you said in your opening remarks, everyone's trying to get the youth more engaged, and in essence, our youth are the future of the country. So if every economy is doing their own thing, no one's actually doing something that's perhaps better in other places. And the education system has, again, globally, moved more and more towards qualifications-based. It's certification. I have a degree in maths and economics. It's important to have, but employers are looking for a lot more these days. They're crying out for young people, in fact, they're crying out for every person to have a positive attitude, to be more engaged, and the soft skills, which frankly are the hardest skills to learn, that's what they want. So this conversation resides around communication.
Soft skills, when you talk of soft skills, what exactly do you mean?
Well, there was some work done many years ago, over 25 years ago in the UK, and it was work around what they call STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and maths. And it was defined then that businesses wanted young people, because the focus was young people, to have all of these 10 soft skills. The primary one is communication. Without communication, actually, life is pretty difficult. But then there's negotiation, there's collaboration, there's team building skills, there's numeracy and literacy. All of these things that I'm sure you take for granted, and when you have a conversation with someone, it always comes out how good they are at holding a conversation with somebody. And these are the real tough skills, and education doesn't focus on them. We do maths for 14 years at school, in our primary school and senior school, and I unfortunately chose to do it at university too. But how many years do we study something called communication? How many years do we study leadership? How many years do we study negotiation?
That's only at the top leadership level that you get to have these courses, not before.
It is, and the whole point about this is it's assumed we learn it on the way. So in schools, we may have enterprise days. I mean, the UK is famous for these things. And you have an enterprise day, but that's just one day in a 3-year curriculum. Maths is reinforced 3 or 4 times a week. Why isn't leadership? Because it's assumed we learn it. And that's the problem. It's an assumption that's incorrect.
That is why the logo of your company is Learning Reimagined?
Yes, well, we say Learning Reimagined, and actually the way we learn is we learn something and then we do something. So, for instance, if we're to be confident, we have to do something to be confident. When we're really young, we're a baby. I mean, I can't remember that far back. I'm a little old, but I'm sure we see young babies starting to walk. They have got no experience of talking. They see a few adults around them walking, and they think, "Oh, that's a good idea." And the perseverance of a child at a very young age, with no knowledge about life at all, can walk.
But then, being a child, I mean, let's go back to that era of being a child. Sometimes the child learns on its own, sometimes it is pushed by the parents to learn to walk, to learn to talk. Now, which part are you talking exactly of enhancing in the youth?
Both, in actual fact, because I see a lot of young people that go through school and through university, and they've been told a lie, and it's not a lie that anyone really understands, but it's a lie that businesses know. So an employer knows that a good degree or a good A-level or qualifications isn't enough. The soft skills, the leadership capability, the right attitude is what is wanted from these young people.
How do you develop this right attitude in the youth of any country? Here you're working in Pakistan with this program, you've begun with it. So what do you look for when a young man or woman comes to you, all right, I want to be part of your program? What is the first thing you tell him or her?
Well, they sign up for the program and they do an assessment. So it's a self-assessment. So in other words, it's them looking in the mirror and answering a few simple questions. And those questions are around their behaviour. What do they do automatically? Because being in, I may say a few phrases here that are a little uncomfortable, but it's having leadership, good leadership, is that unconscious competence. Things you do automatically, like driving a car. Once you've learnt how to drive a car, it's a bit clunky at first.
You don't even think while you're
But
driving
after a while, I mean, you've driven here, I've driven here, and everyone else has driven here, even a motorbike or what have you. You don't even think, you know. You kick-start the motorbike or you turn the engine on and you just make the assumption it's going to work. But we don't do the same with our brain. We don't educate our brain. We don't create the right attitude unless you push yourself into a particular position. But the key thing is here is we can do anything with anybody. It's action-based. So I can suggest people do things. What's their attitude? Are they going to listen to do it? So that's why we assess them at the very beginning. Very simple. It's 12 short questions. I mean, anybody can do it at any age. And it shows their bias towards a positive state or a negative state. And what we find worldwide is that young people are actually negatively biased because they've been let down. They've applied, they've come out, they've got a really good degree, some with PhDs, you know, some with internships, but they've been refused a job. They think they're perfectly positioned for this job, and the first thing is you apply online. Well then, I mean, who are you going to talk to?
You see, when you also apply for a job after getting a good degree and you're let down by saying, oh, you don't have the required skill set that is needed for this job or whatever, you become demotivated. You kind of lose your self-esteem, and all the effort that you've put in by educating yourself to a certain level kind of withers away. How does a company of yours, like yours, help these youth regain that self-esteem?
It's a really tough one to do, and it's easy for me to answer. We take them on a journey. So in many respects, they trust that they believe in what we're doing. And what we say right at the very beginning is we're going to give you the facts and we're going to give you the truth. It's up to you to do with whatever you want to do, given our platform. And we do the same with leaders when we take them on a senior leadership course. We educate them or re-educate them or stimulate their thought process so that then they take action. We even, with the young people, we're acting a little bit like teachers. We're actually saying what they should do, but we're not telling them the context of what they do.
Which brings me to a very interesting question. You said you teach leaders. When one becomes a leader, one that you were as well in certain sectors in the past, how does one reteach oneself? How does one come out of that box or kind of untangle oneself from, I wouldn't say the mess that one is in, but that situation that the leader is in?
Well, you're probably right saying the mess you're in. And that's why a lot of leaders go and get a personal coach. But what we've found over the years, and certainly MindFitness comes out of professional coaching at the very highest level, from Sir John Whitmore's international coaching team, which had a bunch of real good, strong sporting professionals that coached in the sporting world and brought that into the business world. And the very simple fundamental principle about John Whitmore's style of coaching is you raise someone's awareness so they take action. And that's it. So if you were blocked, we call it behavioural waste. You're blocked in somewhere, and you're blocked in it because you've been doing it time and time again. And it may be something simple about you get angry all the time, or you get depressed, actually. And there's going to be some triggers in there, and that's the purpose of a coach is to find out the real root cause and stop it happening in future.
Understanding oneself is something that is very important, apart from, of course, regaining your self-esteem and the importance that you have, not only for yourself, but also for the people that are around you. Take my example, I'll give you mine. I did my studies in medicine, and then at the very end, I did not go forward with those, and I continued to work in another field, and then did my master's in mass communication, got a gold medal in it. I totally changed fields from what I wanted to become. This is what I always wanted to be, that is a doctor. But somehow, somewhere I realized that I did not want to see myself at the age of 40 maybe being in this field. So I changed. I said it's better to change before than to change later. I got that understanding. I don't know how. I don't know from where, but for people who do not have that understanding or do not get to know, because you see, once you go in a certain field, you are, if not by yourself, pushed by the people around you to keep on pursuing that field and not take a backtrack or sidetrack to it. How do you help such people?
Well, I don't think you're any different, first thing, from other people. Something gave you a spark to say, I really don't want to do this. Now that is a real strength of mind, because you had nearly 5 years worth of training that everyone was assuming that you were going down there, so the pressure must be enormous.
Exactly.
Enormous.
It was there even after for a couple of years.
Exactly. So consequently, you really have bucked the trend. So your emotional competence, as we call it, was at a very high level. And you were resilient to take all of the anger, if you like, that may be pointed in your direction. But you did it. And you did it because you had a purpose.
Exactly.
And we talk in businesses, we talk about a vision and a mission. It's not good enough. If a business doesn't have a purpose and they want to employ me or you, how do you know if you're aligned to that purpose? How do you know if you really want to join that track? And what we're finding today, I mean, they call these young people, I hate labels, but they call them millennials, okay? So they're under a certain age, about 25, maybe 30. What we're finding, and the psychologists will prove this time and time again, is that these young people have got far more purpose in their life than ever before. What's brought that around is probably the environment. The internet's brought it around. I'd like some of that. I'm interested in what's going on over there. So their knowledge has been thrown at them from all sorts of angles. And the interesting thing is, our brain can cope with that. But if there's no job at the end of it, and I've been told this, get a good qualification, because it's going to come back to this, get a good job. If the jobs aren't there, how on earth are you going to get one?
This brings us to entrepreneurship, of course. That is the key word now for millennials, whether it be in Pakistan or abroad. How important do you feel entrepreneurship is for a country like Pakistan? Because this is the first country that you've begun your organization with.
Well, I've seen entrepreneurship in many other countries, because I've travelled the world with the oil and gas industry. Entrepreneurship is a funny little animal, really, because there's an entrepreneur in everybody. It's just a question of whether it's sparked. I was presenting at the National Incubation Centre last week, and it was a joy in Islamabad to see so many young people have great ideas. And I was only told today that they're oversubscribed. They're having to turn people away. Well, that, for me, launching what we're doing, is music, absolute music, because now we know that there is this stem of young people that really want to go out and do it on their own, because that's what entrepreneurship is. But the issue about being an entrepreneur is, if you look around the world, 8 out of 10 businesses fail. And the majority of people that say, I failed, say, and they're asked why, they'll say, I ran out of cash. They don't run out of cash.
They run out of motivation.
They ran out of motivation or planning. So whatever it is, it's not cash, because if it's a great idea, someone will fund it. And what they run out of is the 5 inches, as we call it, between the ears, the mindset. When you change from being a doctor to being something else, you didn't run out of mindset. You actually drove your mindset home because your purpose was really overwhelming. And in MindFit, we talk about the 4 parts of the brain: how we think, how we feel, what drives us, and our social connectivity. And whatever we do, those 4 elements are always in play. And if they're in play in a positive way, so if you were really driven to leave medicine, so that's a real powerful tool. You knew you were going to take flack from everybody. You thought about what you were going to do. Your feelings were in control. despite the fact you were being criticised, perhaps, you know.
Oh, more than that.
More than that, yeah. You know, I had parents that would criticise me. Why are you doing that? You know, and I would have to come up with a very strong answer. And finally, it's the social connectivity. So it was bringing other people in to say, come and defend me, come and help me. And of course, you're building your social network. So no matter what we do, those 4 parts of the brain are constantly working together. But of course, one could be negative, brings it all down.
Can't do, won't do. This you've heard so many times. This is also something that your organization relies upon. Whether it be your family, whether it be the people around you, your friends, whether it be your employers, you've heard that time and again. When do you realize as a person, as an individual, that you have to change that can't do, won't do into can do?
Well, it's very personal, number one. So even if your manager, your boss, your friends say you can't do that, it's your purpose that will drive you on. But the purpose isn't good enough, really. You need to start thinking, you know, is it the right thing to do? Can I really do this? Who have I got to help to bring me in to be that can-do person? But we're constantly bombarded, young people in particular. I mean, teachers say, you can't do that. The answer's at the back. Don't look at it. That's cheating. In a business context, collaboration, we call that. Copying someone else is not plagiarism. It's actually, you know, copying someone is the right thing to do. The wheel was invented many, many years ago. All we've done better is making a better wheel. But have you seen a wheel that's anything other than round? Because I haven't.
Who knows what will happen in the future, by the way.
And the other thing is, you know, Edison invented the light bulb. Did Edison look at all of the candles that were out there? Oh, that candle's great. Oh, that one's great. No, Edison probably looked at a thunderbolt that created lightning. And he then innovated. So while everyone was focused on the candle and making better candles, long-lasting candles, prettier candles, he was looking somewhere else. And I bet he got a lot of criticism at the same time too.
I'm sure of that. Teamwork and negotiation, 2 very important aspects of any person's professional life, whether he works as an entrepreneur, and here I mean he or she, or as an employee for any company. How do you manage that, and how do you optimize that to improve on your skill set and to make your employer or your team members realize that you need to be appreciated for who you are?
Well, the thing about working in a team is you're always working in a team. Even as a solopreneur, you've still got a team around you. You've still got someone that prints your business cards, does your other printing, might do your website. So you're constantly in this team environment. The bit about a team is it's only as good as the weakest link. But now let's turn the clock back to when you and I were at school. Longer for me, not so long for you. When you were at school, how much teamwork building did you do?
Very less.
Because it was all about your results, what you were doing. Exactly. Now and again, in a chemistry lesson, you may have worked together, but you still did your report on your own.
Yes.
So by the very nature, we're sort of competitive, but we don't bring that into the team building arena. And if you look at what businesses are looking for, they don't want an independent, because then you're a loose cannon. They want someone that could get on with someone else. Appreciate the fact that we may have a difference of opinion, but we sort it out together. If it's the right thing to do, we go and do it. That's negotiation.
Difference of opinion is something also that is an important thing I'd like to discuss, because there is a difference of opinion and there is an opinion that one doesn't want to change, whether one be part of a team or that employee-employer relationship. You might have your point of view that says, no, that is my point of view and I don't want to hear anything from your end on this regard. This is how things are going to move forward. How do you change that mindset?
Well, I mean, that's pretty negative, because if someone just says, enough discussion, I've made a choice and we're going in this direction, and any team member feels aggrieved at that decision, and the likelihood is they will all feel aggrieved at that decision, then clearly there's not been enough discussion. The point about that there are engagement statistics around the world, and Gallup do it on a regular basis, and the level of engagement globally is 13%. So 13% of the workforce are engaged. What that means is 87% of the workforce are disengaged. Is there any surprise that our young people are just as disengaged? But the part of a leader and the role of a leader is to get the engagement, because you don't want people pulling in a different direction.
That is true.
You know, if you're all rowing a boat in one direction, the last thing you want is for someone to start rowing in the other direction, or indeed put their oar up and not even bothering.
Can you make one realize through your certain skill sets that, all right, we might have a difference of opinion, but we can still work together and inculcate both ideas?
Absolutely. You know, because there's always a compromise. Life's a compromise. You made a compromise. You didn't continue with the doctoring and you went somewhere else. Everyone else suddenly realised, actually, that's really what you want to do. And consequently, I bet they were then very supportive. So it's a shock to the system when someone comes up with a difference of opinion.
All right.
But people that really want to go forwards actually compromise. So my background is oil and gas, fundamentally, and it's about joint ventures. So there's always a compromise in a joint venture, because the very nature of the oil industry is that we're all different companies, but we all come together to work on one particular asset. Therefore, there must be compromise, because we've all got different shareholders. So we focus on the asset and we get the best from the asset.
All right. Compromise, to what level should one compromise in any field, whether it be professional or even personal? Because I feel, myself being an anchor, is that you need to hold on to your own and kind of be, if you're on the right path, you need to make the other person realize that you are at the right path as well, on the right, and you understand what he's trying to come from, and you make him understand what you're trying to say, and you kind of make a bridge to have those two things come together and work together in that way, whether as a team or in a company. How does your company help the youth do that?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's about making that bridge. One thing I won't compromise on is integrity and business ethics. That's just completely out of the window. So if there is a business ethic or an ethical issue that I fundamentally disagree with, I'll walk away. I will state my case and I will walk away. So there are red lines, I think is the common term that's being used around the world these days, particularly in Brexit. That's a red line for me. But people that work with me know that already, so we never get anywhere near that compromised position. But how we do it is we teach them how to listen. You know, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for one very good reason, and we're all born that way. But people don't know how to listen.
That is very important. A lot of people don't know how to listen, even amongst the youth.
Exactly. And the thing is, of course, at school, we've been taught, be quiet, I'm speaking. So there's no feedback. And you can speak when you're talked to. That's what my parents used to say, you know. Children should be seen and not heard. I mean, these are lovely phrases, you know, but there's a time and a place. So when it's the time for the child, when it's the time to discuss, you need to listen to somebody else. I mean, there isn't a leadership book in the world that's been written that says a leader makes all the decisions.
Coming back to your company, one of the things that you emphasize on and make those youth do is make them, each and every one of them, a brand, the brand of me. That is one thing that I really liked when I was going through your company's profile. How do you make a person who has been under societal pressures all his or her life to do one thing in a certain way and to lead his or her life in a certain manner and to go in a certain profession and not the other, be a man or a woman of his or her own?
It's a real. I'm glad you like the brand of me because it had that funny little connotation, and in many respects we don't actually know ourselves. So even though we feel repressed, depressed, I've got this great qualification, I can't get a job, actually the majority of the reason is you're not looking. So what you need to do is to work out exactly who you are. Michael Jackson was very famous for the man in the mirror. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. All young people tend to love Michael Jackson. If I can recommend, listen to the words. Change starts with you, but you have to really know who you are. And that's why the brand of me is so important, because if you don't know your brand, what you do, how you do it, what turns you on, what turns you off, how can you know what I do? You immediately, a leader, a manager in previous days, and certainly today, believes that young people are motivated by what they're motivated by. Well, that's a belief that's wrong.
Exactly.
Ask them.
And I think ask them and try to make them, try to decipher what they want from life and what they've been wanting to have from life. A lot of people want to do totally something else from what they've been told to do all their lives. And it's not in a negative manner that I'm saying, but something he or she wants to make her or his life in a certain field that is contrary to what the society wants him or her to do that. And that is where companies and organizations such as yours help those people, those young people who are the future of countries, especially such as Pakistan, to kind of move forward in that direction. Because if the youth are strong, that means the society is strong. If the society is strong, it means the nation is strong. When you take people in for your organization, your passport to grow, how long does it take for a young man or a woman to realize that he or she can feel the change in himself or herself?
Good question, because people think that change takes a long time. And the reality of life is it will take as long as you want it to take. So if you do something in a particular way, if you know how you do something and you change one small element of that. So if you're forever answering back, not listening, okay? If you bite your tongue when someone's talking, it's amazing how quickly you can learn how to listen. And we call that feedback. So feedback, someone could be, on the way here, we had a few people that were hooting their horns. It's Pakistan, guess what? You haven't got a monopoly on that either. It's the world around. Someone takes a wrong turning or cuts a lane, you're going to hear about it. You don't need to see what's going on behind you. You've heard it. It's feedback. Do you get angry and turn around and talk to them in a not exactly polite way?
But that happens.
Too often, okay? But that's emotional competence. That's the feelings that kick in. Or do you say, actually, my bad, you know, yes, I was definitely out of order. That happens as well. But the point is, what's the right answer here? Okay? If you're in the wrong, own up to it. None of us are perfect. Don't do it next time. So remember it. And this is about practice, practice, and practice.
And also breaking your ego to a certain extent, if I might add.
Interesting enough, ego is a funny word because I was talking earlier on today to a fairly senior executive, and we were talking about ego. And I said the problem with ego is that a lot of people think it's very negative. But actually there's some positive things about ego.
No, there are. I don't disagree with you.
So, but the majority, when you say, oh, he's got an ego, it's always the negative.
Yes, that is what you presume.
Exactly. And you might turn around and say, oh, she's very passionate about what she's doing. Well, she's just got a different type of ego. So it's quite interesting that we know a lot about other people and we're really quick to judge. And the TV shows or the soaps, we can laugh at what's being shown us, but the reality is we're laughing at ourselves because we're seeing things that the director has put in deliberately, so you laugh and think, oh, actually, that might be me.
But when does that realization actually come, that you say, oh, that might be me? Because I've seen that with a lot of people that I've interviewed, or when I discuss amongst friends and family, that realization is not easy to come by.
No, and this is where we go back to traditional coaching. It's about having awareness. We are designed to be highly aware, but we walk around life with blinkers on. So it's not just what we see, it's what we hear, how we're interpreting what we're hearing, what we're thinking. Are we really listening to what's going on?
This interpretation that you talk about, do you feel that it is similar in the West and in a country such as Pakistan, or does it differ from society to society, nation to nation?
I think there'll be cultural differences, but in the main, young people are young people. And old people are old people. I like to have fun, and I'm sure you do too, and many of the audience will. The definition of fun is when I'm really having fun, I don't just smile internally, you can see it on my face, you know, big beaming smile, and there's absolutely no way that can be misinterpreted. That is uniform. You know, a smile is uniform around the world. It's the common language that we've all got.
Speaking of smiles and loving oneself, that is one thing that I also talk a lot about the people and when I talk to other people. Age, I feel, is just a number. A lot of people might disagree with me, even amongst my viewers, but I feel that you can change at any age. For example, a company such as yours, your passport to grow, is there an age limit to that? Can you grow at, for example, if you're in your 40s, like you're in your 20s, if you have that ambition, that drive to change yourself and be a better person, is there a time limit, an age limit to when that realization comes?
Well, the simple answer is no, there's no age limit at all. Age is just a number. At 59, nearly turning 60, I feel as though I'm 18 years old, but I've got a lot of experience. I wish I'd have had the 40 years again so I could actually make more of a difference than we're making today. I see lots of people that retire, and rather than gestate and just take that natural journey to, in essence, the grave, they say, actually, I'm going to do something different. And they can actually be entrepreneurs. And we see that a lot, actually, in the West. And from what I've been hearing over the last 2 weeks, it happens here too. So age is really just a number. When that trigger happens, you know, you may have gone through your final exams, become a doctor, gone into practice. It could have been 5 years later where you said, you know what, I told myself I shouldn't have done this. I'm now going to make the break. It'd have been 5 years longer, but the point is it was never too late, otherwise you wouldn't be doing this.
That is so true. Now, speaking of a country like Pakistan, how has the reaction been from the different segments of society when you launched a very ambitious program such as your Passport to Grow?
This is a disruption program, simply because I say that if education were doing what the business world wanted, they would take this on board immediately. Teachers are doing a fantastic job, but they're doing what they're being told to do. To integrate into the world of where this young person's going, I think we need to ask the question of what's the purpose of education, if not to build future leaders of all sorts, across all sectors, and help young people be independent in their future and not, as we call in the UK and the West, the bank of mum and dad. You know, house prices in the UK have soared. My children are all reasonably comfortably off, but they're certainly not rich. At 29 years old, I was in America. They've got no opportunity to do that sort of thing now. So, the key thing is, if we're really serious about building the future leaders from the current nation, and let's face it, Pakistan has got a very young community.
When you talk to these young men and women from Pakistan, how much of a drive do you see in them to make a change, not only for themselves, but for their community?
It's twofold, really. From the assessments that we have online, we can see that there isn't much drive. And maybe that is because of the economy, the environment, the fact they've been let down so often. They may have good qualifications, etc., etc. But when we get the opportunity to talk to young people, and part of the reason I've been here for an extended visit is to get into the grassroots and talk with young people. Not talk at them, talk with them. Find out what their problem is. And amazingly enough, as I said, the National Incubation Centre is oversubscribed. So there is a different undercurrent here of people want change. But I will typically, in my leadership programs, I will show quite a funny cartoon, and there's a whole audience, and the person at the front will say, "Who wants change?" And everyone will put their hand up.
The right attitude, the right skill that one person can forward with, that one should excel in, whether it be a man, a woman, a young woman or a young man. How long does it take under your program for the person to realize, or is it subjective?
It is subjective, but there is an old adage that said change happens in 90 days. That's not 21 days to change a habit, because that's a falsehood, actually. The research around that is not as good as you might think. But within a 90-day period, it allows you to practice things in a regular way. So rather than assuming that practice makes perfect, practice makes permanent. All right, that's a very interesting concept. The more you do something, the better you will be at it. Now, the problem with that is you may be doing the wrong thing. So just going back to the driver that's constantly cutting someone up, but hearing about it, they're not listening to the feedback. They're not taking it in and saying, actually, I shouldn't be doing that. That's the wrong thing to do. But they're perfect at doing it every time. So what we say is the right practice makes perfect. And what we're doing within Your Passport to Grow is show people the right thing to do. We've got years, over 25 years of experience in the main company. And we're bringing in people in Pakistan who are very well-established trainers, business leaders par excellence, have created companies, lost those companies, created new companies. So they know the concept of resilience and the bounce back ability. And what we're trying to do is instill in a young person is all you've got to do is take that first step. And when you take that first step, I defy anyone to stop. Because even walking down a road, if you stride and take a first step, if you try and stop at that first step, you'll fall over. Because your momentum has carried you into the second step. And what we're trying to show here is that we've been there, seen it, done it. We've got the T-shirt, we've been on the video. We've got some really good people that we've brought in, business leaders that are going to tell you the truth. Listen to them, take action. We only have small actions. So all of these 10 STEM skills, it's a quiz, and at the end of every quiz, there's an action. And it's you taking those actions, because we know the more you do it, the better you get at it. As long as we're telling you the right thing to do.
The thing that you're passionate about.
Exactly, exactly.
And you kind of put people in that certain direction of which they are passionate of, and then you tell them, you might fall, and you might fall again and again, but you'll get up and move and run even as a stronger person. Neville Gaunt, thank you so very much to have joined us, to have been an inspiration and a motivator and a source of letting people understand and know that nobody is an underdog. Everybody has a certain skill set that they can excel in and be the masters of their own fate, and make good use of that and make our nation and our society proud. And I'm so happy that a person like yourself has started a program like Your Passport to Grow from Pakistan, so that our youth, that is in majority in our country, can excel and can make not only our country but also the world proud of what Pakistani youth are capable of. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll end with this little quote that is associated with their company, that is Your Passport to Grow. It is by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she says, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Believe in your dreams, and that is how you will succeed." Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz. We'll see you again next week, same time, same channel, with another show of Diplomatic Enclave. And Neville, it was a pleasure having you on our show. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.